Hello, everyone. Thank you for participating in our webinar today on latest blockchain trends and industry use cases by Techracers. I am Lata here, Chief Marketing Officer Techracers, and I have Ankur, our CEO, who will be our speaker today on this webinar. Let me tell you a little about what exactly we do. So, tech racers are leaders in providing end-to-end blockchain solutions and services and help businesses build revolutionary models and practices for the new era of digital economy in order to create value for their customers. Hi, Ankur.
Hey, Lata. Hello, everyone.
Okay, so Ankur, let's start because there has been a lot of hype around blockchain and people confuse blockchain with cryptocurrencies. And I'm sure that blockchain technology is beyond cryptocurrencies. So how would you define blockchain in the simplest of terms?
Well, actually, blockchain is a subset of something called as distributed ledger technology. So first, let's understand what a ledger is. Ledger is an accounting term. So basically, a balance book where you maintain a list of all your transactions is called a ledger. So what does distributed ledger means? Distributed ledger means that the copy of ledger that I have is going to be the same as the copy of ledger that you have. So basically what blockchain and what distributed ledger technology does is it creates a trustless network. It creates a trustless network of nodes via cryptography. That's how it does it. And blockchain, as the name refers it, it's nothing but a chain of blocks. It's a cryptographically linked chain of blocks, and each blocks contain nothing but a set of transactions. That's what a blockchain is in very simple layman terms. And how do how does all this magic happens? The magic happens via cryptography. So there's something called as a Byzantine general problem, which is what blockchain tries to solve. Now, I won't get into the technical details of what the Byzantine general problem is, but think of it like, for example, you have a fort that you need to attack, and there are two armies, one on this side of the fort and one on the other side of the fort. And now there has to be some way for them to communicate and attack the fort simultaneously. However, in order for them to communicate, they need to send a messenger who needs to go via the fort. And once the messenger goes via the fort, there is a chance that somebody can tamper the message. And but the two generals need to coordinate. So how do they coordinate? That's called the Byzantine general problem. Blockchain solves that problem using something called as cryptography, and there are things like consensus algorithm and all of it, which are too technical, but in layman's term, I would define blockchain as a cryptographically linked list, and containing blocks, and each block containing a list of transactions. That's what blockchain is.
Uh-huh. We have seen a lot of ups and downs in this blockchain technology. It has been very volatile, and we feel that it's still evolving. For example, we have seen a very high rise in 2017 in number of the ICOs, which was done, but the success rate was very less. And in 2018, the number of ICO generated has reduced, the frequency has reduced nowadays. So how do you see the blockchain is progressing day by day?
Well, blockchain is not a disruptive technology. It is a foundational technology. So when you compare blockchain, you probably would have to compare blockchain with something like the internet. Now, how does any foundational technology gets adopted? So there are generally four stages. The first stage for any foundational technology is a killer application, which in case of the internet was the email. The second stage is localized adoption. The third stage is setting of protocols, and then the fourth stage is disruptive applications being built on that technology. So when I compare blockchain with internet, I would say in internet the killer app was probably the email. In blockchain, that killer app was Bitcoin, right? Then right now we are in the stage where we are having localized adoption of blockchain. So like everybody is trying to experiment with blockchain. They're not completely sure about blockchain at the moment. But we are in that stage where local consortia are being formed and blockchain is being experimented there. That's where blockchain is right now. But there are still like several stage of blockchain evolution to go. Even technically, blockchain is not where it would probably be in the end. It's still evolving.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. So there are a lot of blockchain platforms, for example, Ethereum, EOS, DAG, multi-chain, Hyperledger Fabric. What do you think are the top three trends in the current blockchain ecosystem?
Um. Well, so let's also define that. Right now we are where I like almost the entire community call in blockchain 3.0 phase. So what was blockchain 1.0? Blockchain 1.0 was Bitcoin, which was nothing but like you could just make transaction from one person to another in a trustless network of nodes. That's what blockchain 1.0 was. Then came blockchain 2.0, which was basically Ethereum, which gave you the abilities of having smart contracts. Now, what are smart contracts? Smart contracts are nothing but like, if then else conditions that get attached to a particular transactions and get executed when that transaction happens. So that was blockchain 2.0. But blockchain 1.0 and 2.0 had a huge problem, which was basically the problem of scalability, where like, you couldn't do a lot of transactions on that particular blockchain. In fact, the DPS or the transaction per second limit of Bitcoin was really small. The same was with Ethereum. You could probably do like 15 to 30 transactions per second on Ethereum. And like with that sort of capability, you can't really scale blockchain to a global level. So now what we have is currently blockchain 3.0, where everybody is working towards solving this particular problem, the problem of scalability. Like how can we have millions of transactions in a second on blockchain so that blockchain can actually be used for mass adoption? And in the blockchain world, we have something called as a blockchain trilemma, which is, so you have, imagine a triangle and there are like three vertices of this triangle, right? So one is security, the other is decentralization, and the third is scalability. And the blockchain trilemma says that you can only get two out of the three. So you either can get security and scalability and you have to compromise on decentralization, or you can get decentralization, scalability, but then you have to compromise on security and like so on and so forth. Currently, the entire blockchain technical community is trying to find the sweet spot between those three attributes and like achieve a blockchain or create a blockchain that would pretty much be able to like go towards mass adoption, and along with that also have the security and decentralization ability that blockchain was there to create.
Mhm. So, how far is the blockchain technology from reaching its full potential?
Well, so let's again take this in multiple dimensions. The first dimension obviously is the technical dimension, and there too I feel that it has not reached its full potential. We are still in blockchain 3.0, and I think there's probably going to be 4.0, 5.0. Until the scalability problem does not get solved, I don't think blockchain would have reached its full technical potential, so as to say. uh, Now let's also talk about the adoption of blockchain. Blockchain is not that simple for a normal user. A normal user does not understand cryptography. A normal user does not understand what's a private key is, what a public key is, and how like to access their accounts and all of it. So there's still quite some way to go there towards adoption as well. And then the legal stuff, like we have all heard how different governments have different take on cryptocurrency and blockchain, and how those regulations are coming in trying to create some sort of an ecosystem or some type, sort of a legal structure for these stuff to like coexist with what is there. I mean, no government wants to leave its own fiat currency and suddenly start adopting cryptocurrency, so there is some inertia there as well. But the good thing is that regulations are being formed. Like governments are being cognizant of the fact that okay, there is something called as cryptocurrency, and they need to look into it. So that to me is in itself a big recognition of blockchain technology per se and cryptocurrency as well. Then, in terms of enterprise adoption, I think blockchain is currently in a phase where enterprises are not sure. Most of them are currently sitting on the fence trying to see what others are doing. Some are doing POCs. Some are like still not into blockchain completely. They're wary of the technology, especially because of the, I wouldn't say hostile, but a little ambiguous legal framework and legal structure that is there. So these are currently like the challenges that the entire blockchain ecosystem faces. But slowly, I think we're going to reach the probably the maximum potential in a decade or so, I would say.
Mhm. So you feel that blockchain industry has real life use cases?
Oh yes, definitely. Blockchain industry has several real life use cases. In the sense, like forget Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is one real life use case, which is the cryptocurrency use case. But even besides that, there are several industries that blockchain can impact. There is obviously supply chain. Even the word supply chain and blockchain tells you that there is going to be some sort of a similarity between them. There's healthcare, there is telecom, there is social network, and obviously there's fintech. Like fintech is the industry that is probably the most impacted by blockchain, and that's what you hear about blockchain being compared to almost all the time. But let's not talk about fintech today. I mean, I would rather try to get into some other industries apart from fintech, because almost everybody has heard about how blockchain impacts fintech, cross-border transactions, and all of that.
Mhm. Then let's talk about healthcare. I mean, I think you're aware about the recent data leak in this biggest Singapore healthcare sector. Do you think blockchain can actually solve this problem? And the major problem of healthcare industry, that is interoperability and patient data management. How do you think blockchain can be useful there?
Well, so these are some of the stats that we have in the slides, which tells us about the healthcare, social media, and telecom, and how much revenue has been raised in these sectors. So looking at this figure yourself, you can say that okay, other industries too are going to get impacted with blockchain. Coming to healthcare, you're absolutely right. Healthcare has several problems, especially when it comes to interoperability, especially when it comes to patient data management, especially when it comes to crypto attacks on patient data. So what I mean by crypto attack is people get confused. So I'll just sort of clarify. Although the data is encrypted, in a crypto attack, what happens is the data gets doubly encrypted, and then there is no way for you to retrieve that particular data. So that's what a crypto attack is. And you're absolutely right. Blockchain can definitely help solve a lot of issues which are there with healthcare, especially when it comes to not just patient data, but also with clinical trial, also with drug provenance, even with fund provenance. As we discussed a while back, blockchain is an immutable linked list. It's an immutable ledger. Whatever happens in blockchain stays there forever. Nobody can change it. Now we all know about drug provenance, the counterfeit drug issue, and it's very common, especially in third world countries where almost a lot of people die because of counterfeit drugs and all of it. Imagine if you could track the movement of drug, how the drug was made, plus where it was manufactured, how it got transferred to the port, how it reached the wholesaler, how it reached the retailer, all of it. If you could track all of that on a blockchain in an immutable manner, it would give a lot of transparency, and it would solve a lot of issues that are there with drug provenance. Same with patient data management. So currently, you have several of these EHR systems, which all have their own way of handling patient data. And so if I go to hospital one and I get my reports done there, there is no way for me to actually take that data and go to hospital two. Now with blockchain, you can do all of that. So with blockchain, you can create a distributed storage system where all of your data is stored in a cryptographed manner, and you can even shard your data. What I mean by sharding is you can cut your data into several pieces, have them stored in different areas, so that even if one area gets attacked or something happens, your entire data is not leaked. And then you can create an access or a permission layer on the blockchain itself, where you as a patient can decide who will get to view the data and who will not get to view the data. So basically, the entire control of your data is in your hand, and at the same time, your data is secured, it's sharded, and you ensure that there is no single point of failure. So yes, and there are several other use cases as well. Even the funding mechanism, healthcare. We have all of these institutions, WHO, and all of Bill Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They spend several billions of dollars in healthcare research and in healthcare funding, and where this fund goes is a sort of mystery to a lot of people. Sometimes the fund does not get utilized properly. Even the entire fund tracking can be done on blockchain. So yeah, I mean there are several use cases in healthcare industry itself, and I think apart besides fintech and logistic, healthcare is one of the hot sector which is really embracing blockchain technology.
Uh-huh. Okay. And what are your thoughts on the recent Facebook data leaks? Even I'm scared to do activities on social media. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. So, do you think that blockchain can actually make social media more secure and private?
Well, yes, I mean obviously we've all heard about the recent data leak and Mark Zuckerberg's testimony. I mean that became viral. Um, And the recent GDPR regulation itself says that now people are really conscious about how their data is stored, who gets access to their data, and privacy of data is now becoming a challenge. So, this is one of the things that came with internet. Like, internet gave us so many things, but this is one of the bad things that probably happened. Blockchain can definitely change all of that. So now, as I mentioned earlier, while we were discussing healthcare, your data can be in your control. So blockchain can allow you to create a private vault where your data is stored, and then it can allow you to control where exactly and with whom your data is going to be shared. And besides all of that, it can allow you to make money from your data. Like, it can allow you to monetize your data. So currently, all the stuff that you upload on Facebook, on Instagram, on WhatsApp, that's not your property. The moment you click that I accept terms and conditions, that is the moment you give Facebook the control of all your data. And then Facebook, Google, all of these big institutions, they would use your data, they would run their machine learning and algorithms and all of it, and then send these data to marketers. And in this entire process, the two parties that make money from all of this is Facebook, Google, and these central institutions and the marketers. But you, as a consumer or as a user who is actually uploading or creating the data, does not make any money out of it. That is one thing that blockchain can change. Blockchain can create an ecosystem where you upload your data in your private vault. You dictate as to how much data you want to share with marketers. You dictate as to how much money you want to make from your data. And all of that is possible with blockchain, its distributed storage, and the ecosystem. So
Mhm.
yes, I mean, I think social media is also one of the sectors that will slowly start adopting blockchain. Currently, there are technical challenges. I mean, Facebook probably handles billions of transactions per second, and there is no blockchain system or no blockchain technology in place at the moment that can probably handle the same amount of throughput. So blockchain technology has to mature, but once it matures, and it will mature, I think then blockchain would become a real use case for social media as well.
Mhm. You said that enterprises are still very wary of using blockchain technology into their legacy systems. Do you feel that telecom is embracing this change, and are they ready for the disruption?
Well, telecom is definitely embracing the change. In fact, all the industries are experimenting with blockchain, and they are currently building small POCs and localized adoption of blockchain. And telecom has several use cases that where blockchain can come into picture. So again, going back to our earlier discussion, so blockchain has immutability, but another thing that blockchain has is data reconciliation. You have your own ledger, I have my own ledger, and then using blockchain technology, that ledger is automatically tallied. So that's data reconciliation. Right now, that happens manually. So, for example, if you have to generate an invoice to me, then I would need to tally your invoice. I would need to check whether all of that you have actually written in your invoice is correct or not, and then I would make you the payment. I cannot trust that your invoice is correct. Blockchain can change that. So, blockchain will automatically have a data reconciliation ability, so that the invoice that you send to me is automatically compared, and the data reconciliation happens via the distributed ledger technology. So the data reconciliation property of blockchain is what I feel is going to be used tremendously in telecom. So we all know that right now, data or mobile data is sort of electricity. We can't live without it. I mean, you can't live without the internet. It's almost as important as water and electricity now. It's one of the utility features that you have. But I'm sure you must have experienced low network in a lot of areas. I mean, especially the buildings. If you go to a mall, if you go to the airport, then the network is not that great. But suppose you are provider A who doesn't have that great network in a particular area, and I'm a subscriber of your particular network. However, there is another network, network B, which has great coverage in that particular area. Now, how about if I create a marketplace on blockchain where you, network A, can buy data capacity from network B so that your subscriber, when it goes into a region where you don't have a great coverage area, can automatically switch to network B, can automatically consume network B's data. So the subscriber would have a great experience. The entire data that the subscriber is consuming via network B gets automatically reconciled with your system using distributed ledger, and the invoices are generated automatically, and then the entire transactions and the entire settlement happens completely in an automated manner on blockchain itself. That's huge, right? That's amazing. I mean, that will create a marketplace where almost everybody wins. I mean, you win, network A wins, network B wins, and the subscriber wins. So that's one of the potentials of blockchain technology that I feel the telecom sector will really adopt to.
That's great. And that means I'll not have any call drops anymore, right?
Well, I won't promise you that you won't have any call drops, but definitely blockchain would ensure that the number of call drops that you have now would reduce tremendously once this marketplace gets created, and once you have once you have these different telecom operators and different network providers form a consortia and start using the blockchain technology per se to do their data reconciliation and give better services to users.
Okay. That was great, Ankur, to understand about the industry insights on how we can use blockchain. And I mean, what I could understand is that blockchain is here to stay and it is going to be the next disruption, right?
Oh, well, definitely. It's a foundational technology. But again, I would like to point out here that blockchain does not solve all your problems. Okay. So blockchain cannot fly an aeroplane. I mean, people right now think that, okay, blockchain is a panacea. No, it's not. So blockchain has a few properties. Immutability is one of them. Data reconciliation is another of them. Creating trustless networks is the third. So there are some very specific use cases where blockchain is really going to shine. But that's pretty much it. It's not gonna change everything. It's not gonna make your card right. But yes, when as more and more parties, as more and more people start adopting blockchain, creating that network, then we will see a massive change.
Great. Thank you, Ankur. Thank you so much for this webinar. Hey, people, I hope you enjoyed this webinar and got an insight about the different industries. If you have any questions, you can type down your questions on the right hand side corner. And we have our corporate one pager. You can see that in our handouts. Yeah. Thank you so much once again. And stay tuned for more webinars from our side.